Let's speak to Joseph Haynes Davis. He's a criminal lawyer and social justice commentator who joins us from Orlando, Florida. Mr. Davis, it's always a pleasure seeing you. Firstly, Biden says this law is an attack on good conscience, among other things. Can you give us a bit of detail about it? And does it actually target Americans of African descent?
Well, let me answer that question. And as always, thank you for having me. Let me answer that question from a historical standpoint. Here in the United States of America, people of African descent were once considered chattel, that is, not human, that is, could be sold and bought and traded as if they were unhuman and items on the market. What abolished that was the 13th Amendment. It abolished slavery. Then you have the 14th Amendment, which has something called the Equal Protection Clause that means that people of Black American descent and other descents will be protected equally. The 15th Amendment allowed for Black American men the right to vote. And then the 19th Amendment allowed for all women the right to vote. So to answer your question the way you asked it, there is always going to be suspicion when there are laws and things that perceptually, at the very least, limit the ability to cast a vote. On the other hand, the governor of Georgia and the Georgia legislature apparently see these measures needed because of the basis of some evidence of fraud and what have you. You see reports of that in the news as well. So you have two sides of the story. However, I can tell you that historically, the Black American vote has always been at issue because it has tried to be muted post-slavery with the Jim Crow laws in the South and other laws throughout the nation.
I guess I understand what you're saying. Perception is one thing, but if you can identify elements of the law that actually target people of African descent, that will help us understand a whole lot better.
Well, that might be the problem right there, and that's why it may have passed. It might be an effect in terms of how Black Americans vote now through the mail and other ancillary ways, but to find in the law, in the legislature, in the state of Georgia, that those measures actually definitely target Black Americans. In other words, it even says it in the law. That might be hard to find, and therefore that's why it passed. I'm sure that it'll be challenged, at the Supreme Court level and at higher levels, here in the United States of America, and so forth, with appeals.
All right, well, the president seems quite upset about it. Is there anything he can do to change it?
Well, I think that because we have the separation of powers, in other words, he is in the executive branch, his powers are vested in the limitations of that branch. You have the judicial, the executive, and the legislative branch. The issue will be taken up, I believe, through the judicial process, that being appeals through the federal courts, and then obviously up to the Supreme Court. Now, to answer your question, what the president can do, he can continue to make his comments frequent and often through the media that he objects to the measures that the Georgia legislature passed and the Georgia governor, Governor Kemp, signed. So he could keep pressure up that way just through his comments.
Joseph Haynes Davis, always a pleasure seeing you once more. Thank you for your contribution.